This is a video about my review or my reading of the article around that says hope is an embrace of the unknown. The thing that stood out for me in this article was the good understanding, I thought a very powerful understanding, that hope is a gift you don't have to surrender. So this is from the writer of the book Hope in the Dark, and it came at the context where the war between America and Iraq in the early 2000s. But the thing that stood out for me was that there's a popular power to the pulling together of hope. The sense that if we could come together in hope, then we're able to do something powerful for change. But we also know that also people can come together, and there's people power to bring stability and to say we will not change, we will keep things status quo. And so I think this is an important element in how we understand hope in the context of Australia right now, is that even though we have to cultivate hope in ourselves, we realise that there's a hope, or there's a people power that has used people power to actually keep things stable, not to make change. So the other thing that is important in this article that I think stood out to me was that change is already happening. We know that change is shifting. We know that change is evident. So it's not so much about, when will change happen, but how do we identify the change, and how do we do something about the change that is actually, how do we amplify it, and how do we get on board with it? So we know that there's shifts, there are changes in economic inequality, climate change, and there are movements for change, and sometimes they get backlash, and then they get a counter force, looking for stability. But there are movements around. So there's hope in that. The critical thing that came out of this article for me, I thought was really important, was that hope is not the belief that everything will be fine, that everything will be okay. Hope is not that. It's not that, we've got this, everything's going to be fine, it's rosy, it's all going to get better narrative. It's not about that. It is about seeing the possibilities, and through those possibilities, the idea that it invites us or even demands us to act. So that I thought was a really powerful thing for us in our context here in Australia right now. So the hope is not the belief that everything's okay. It's about seeing the possibilities and the invitation to act. It's about seeing openings and the uncertainties, and in the complexities, we actually see openings. So up here in Tennant Creek, as I've been working this week, we've been placing this as a bit of a movement, right? So you see this tough reality right in front of you. But as you see that reality, then you go, how can I look around it? How can I look around to see the possibilities around this tough reality? It means you don't ignore the tough reality. You don't deny it, but it means you absolutely see it. You see it for what it is, but then you also see the possibilities. And in the uncertainties, you see hope. Hope to see some way to act and change. I think that's really important for us, and that's a really powerful message that comes out of this article. The other thing for me is that there are change stories, and this article talks about there are change stories, and quietly and in the margins, people are doing powerful and transformative work. And part of what we need to do is remember that and amplify that. So keep that as part of our memory. So cultivate our memory to draw on the transformative things that we know are happening. So sometimes we need to look at what is already there. Sometimes we need to look into cultivating our memory purposefully, but change is rarely ever straightforward. It always means that we've got to do something, we've got to change something, we've got to keep navigating towards what we hold as our high dream, but then we try and find our way through different ways. There's an intergenerational context to this as well. We see that the vote that happened on the weekend is almost copy and paste from 1999. So it shows that in some ways Australia has not shifted. It's the same sort of pattern, but it also means that the conditions perhaps were not there. And so we've got to do something about that. So what this means for us is that we have to hold into this uncertainty. And in this article, this is one of the things that I think really, really stood out for me, and I think is golden. That hope in uncertainty is a really powerful and golden message for us to nourish and for us to hold on to. We also, I think, need to cultivate our memory so that we're remembering not just the things that have gone wrong or the things that haven't worked as well, but it means we also have to cultivate the memory of the achievements, of those moments, those milestones, the things that have been transformative, because it will help us to hold hope in the face of despair. So I hope that this has been a message for you that you were able to take to heart, and also that you're able to take and bring into the work of transforming systems for First Nations and other Australians working together.